What's up, my freshmen? Happy virtual day. As I normally like to do on virtual days, I would encourage you to take a moment to pray, just if you haven't done so already. Maybe pause this video, say a quick prayer for your learning today, and then we'll continue on with our lesson from there. Alright, I hope you had a good chance to pause the video and pray. Our objective for today, as we move on to something new this week, is to write clear thesis statements. Last semester we wrote one essay largely together. This semester we're going to double down and do two over the course of this semester. This gives us a chance to kind of double back a little bit to what we learned last semester and see if we can sharpen our writing skills this week. Right now you're watching our Acorn People essay prompt. Just want to walk you through what we'll be writing about this week. There's also a really small assignment that this video will lead you through today so that you are ready for our outlining time in class tomorrow. You'll notice an assignment today. We'll look through it together at the end of this video, titled Acorn People Essay Thesis. That is something I would like for you to crank out today. Again, I'll walk you through it at the end of this video. So you'll see a couple things in our lesson folder. You're watching our essay prompt right now. I will click into that so we can look at the document. Again, essay thesis is something I will walk you through later on. So you'll notice a document here titled Acorn People Essay Prompt 2023. I'm just going to click View to look at it with you here. I will have paper copies of this in class tomorrow if you need a paper copy too. It's a really similar essay prompt to what we had last semester. There's just a couple of things that I want to make sure I can clarify today as for what we'll be working on this week. For one, you do have two options on topic as we write this week. One option is a character analysis. I know that if you had Mrs. Tan last semester, you've already done a character analysis. My students from last semester did symbolism instead, so here's your opportunity to look at character. Another option is tone analysis. So if you want to avoid character for this essay and discuss more about the tone of the Acorn People, that is another option for you, as we'll look at here too. A lot of the format and length and stuff is the exact same as last semester. Formal format. We'll avoid first and second person pronouns. We'll use MLA in text citations and headings, those kinds of formatting things. And it's the same length, just 1 to 2 pages, double spaced. We'll do some typing in class this week. 12-point Times New Roman font, I will recover that during our block day this week. Two prompt options right here, and I'll walk through both of them briefly here. Again, you only have to respond to one of these two prompts, not both. So whichever one you like better is the one you should go for. Again, if you had Mrs. Tan last semester, I would maybe challenge you to avoid character and focus more on the tone one, but I will leave that up to you. The first option here is character analysis. So it's asking you to analyze the key traits of one of the story's major characters. I've listed off really the best ideas for that right here. So Ron, the narrator, is an option. Dominic's an option. Mrs. Nelson, any of the 5 boys in Ron's cabin. There's enough in the story to support it. For any character trait you identify, I would ask you to use evidence from the text to support your ideas, so pulling out quotes or paraphrases to support the character trait that you chose. Another option, once again, is tone. So if you want to avoid character for this one, option 2 is asking you to analyze how the story's tone changes over time. The best way to attack this prompt will be to discuss the story's beginning, the middle, and the end, discussing how the tone changes from part to part. So identify the tone in the beginning of the story, maybe the first 2 chapters. The middle of the story, you could really choose any point within the middle of the text. But then we also want to devote a paragraph to the end of the story too. How does the tone feel as the story comes to a close? Again, use evidence, quotes, paraphrases from the text to support your ideas. Essay structure is the same as last semester. It's going to be a 5-paragraph essay. Each body paragraph is going to be rather short, and that's okay. Again, introduction, we're going to give background first off, so it might be a good space to introduce your character if you're doing character analysis, or discuss tone in general if you're discussing tone. We do have to imagine that your audience doesn't know much about this text. At some point in your intro, we'll also give the book title and author, so The Acorn People by Ron Jones. And then thesis statement, which I'll coach you through later on in this video. Again, if you're doing character, you'll identify your character traits. So for my example, I'll do Mr. Bradshaw. He's one of the more difficult characters to do anyway. So I might say Mr. Bradshaw is stern, orderly, and distant. Each of those adjectives would be one body paragraph. So one about how stern he is, one about how orderly he is, one about how distant he is. Or if you're doing tone, it might look something like this. The tone at the beginning is negative, becomes more positive in the middle, and feels bittersweet in the end. For this example thesis, I was intentionally kind of vague. I would probably expect you to use better adjectives than negative and positive if you're choosing that prompt. Body paragraphs, again, we'll have 3 of them, but they all work the same way. In your topic sentence, identify whichever character trait or tone word you're discussing. You could begin with a transition word, first, next, last, for instance. From there, background information. So before you use a quote or paraphrase, let your reader understand where it comes from in the story. From there, we're going to include a quote or paraphrase itself from the text. Again, we'll have the books in the classroom that you can use as a reference. You want to make sure that it's good evidence of what you're trying to say in your thesis. So for instance, if I'm writing about Mr. Bradshaw, and I'm going to argue that he's a stern character, I need to find a good quote that he says, or an example of something that he does, something from the text in order to prove that point to be true. Commentary comes next. Again, explain the quote. This is where you're mostly working with your own words here. Explain to the reader how you're correct in your thesis. Again, connect the text to your own ideas there. And then each body paragraph is going to end with a summary sentence to tie everything together. Could possibly connect to the next paragraph as well. Then lastly, your essay is going to have a conclusion paragraph. Conclusions do 2 things. As a reminder, they summarize everything from your body. They also end with some kind of final thought, a thought-provoking statement. It'll restate your thesis first, then wrap up the thoughts in 3 sentences. You'll have 1 per body paragraph. Then lastly, a final thought. So mine, for instance, for Mr. Bradshaw might say something like, all in all, Mr. Bradshaw's character influences the story in the Acorn People. Or for tone, overall, the Acorn People illustrates how authors control tone in a story. Something to wrap everything together in a neat, creative way. I'm not going to go through the rubric in depth. It's pretty much the exact same as the last time. But instead of topic and summary sentences being worth double, it's now evidence. I want to see really solid quotes and paraphrases within this essay. So that one I'll be grading out of 20 instead of 10. Ends up being a 100-point essay, just like last semester. And then MLA format stuff. Again, I'll let you read through that on your own. These are just the nitty-gritty requirements of your essay. Let's look at thesis writing. Acorn People essay thesis. And let me zoom in on this a little bit. There we go. So your assignment for today, and you've got a couple options on how you can turn this in. I simply want you to write your thesis statement for your essay. So you might want to spend some more time with the prompt to decide on which route you're going to take for your essay. But I do want you to get a start by identifying your thesis statement, the most important sentence or 2 in your essay. I have included some templates you can use as a model, depending on which prompt you're going for. You can certainly use your own sentence structure if you like something different as your thesis. 2 ways to submit your thesis. You can either submit it to the right. So if you look on the right here, you should see a button that says something like upload file or upload submission. I think there might even be a spot there where if you click it, it allows you to type out your thesis on a document and submit here, or you could just do it in Word Online and upload it here, or even just handwrite yours and upload a picture here. That works for me. You'll also see that I've actually enabled comments on this one as well. So if you want to write your thesis statement in the comment bar below so I can comment on it that way, that works too. Either way works with me, but it does have to be in complete sentences. If you're looking for a template, for prompt option number 1, so if you're doing character analysis, could just be a simple sentence where you do your character's name, and then you list your 3 adjectives. So mine, for instance, was, Mr. Bradshaw is stern, orderly, and distant. That might be my complete thesis right there. It helps me to get a good direction for my essay. If you're doing tone, a possible template that could work for you might say something like, the tone of the story is blank in the beginning, fill in the blank with whichever tone word you want to use, becomes blank, or becomes blank in the middle, if you want to add some more detail there, and ends up blank in the end. So what's important about a thesis, if you're doing tone, is that you're identifying beginning, middle, end, because that sets up each of your body paragraphs in order. Again, you can upload this just as a picture or as a file on the right, or if you want to type it into the comment bar, that works for me as well. I just need a way to see what you're thinking for your thesis so far, and it gives me a chance to grade and comment on it as well. I've jabbered a little bit long today. I apologize for that. Just so you guys know, I will be available through Schoology and Microsoft Teams throughout the day today, off and on, so by all means, send me a message if you feel stuck or have questions for me. I'm also going to be working on catching up on grading and sending out grade reports for you guys today. Peace.